Welcome to episode 11 of the weekly Mailbox. This is your chance, your weekly chance to ask me any questions you fancy, whether it's Formula 1, Formula E, IndyCar, NASCAR, anything you fancy really. That being said, today it's a bit of a Formula 1 special. Every single question is Formula 1 based. No Formula E questions for you today. We've got 15 minutes straight of Formula 1 goodness. But as always, if you've got any questions for the future, feel free to put them in the comments below. And if you're enjoying the Formula 1 summer break, well, I say enjoying. I don't think we're all enjoying the break. I think we all can't wait for Formula 1 to come back. But if you are enjoying, feel free to subscribe. Daily Formula 1 content at the moment, just to keep you ticking over until the Belgian Grand Prix. That's the formalities out of the way. We can chill now just a little bit and head to our first question. We've got some juicy ones today for sure. And our first question of the day comes from Elliot Osterling. Do you think that Ricciardo will get a seat at some of the top teams in the future? Heads up, sneak peek for all of you watching today. I'm currently doing a video on Daniel Ricciardo, his first year in yellow, talking about whether the move was a sensible one, talking about whether he regrets the move. I think is the best way to put it. But looking at the future, do I think he'll get a seat at a top team? I think he will. I think during his 5 seasons at Red Bull Racing, I think he proved to the world that not only is he quick, not only is he one of the best overtakers in Formula 1, but personally, I think he proved he's World Championship material. And that's definitely something that a lot of drivers in that midfield either haven't proven yet or just haven't proven in general. So I think Ricciardo definitely, even though we've got guys like Lando Norris, we've got Pierre Gasly in the midfield now, George Russell, we haven't seen what he can do. Apologies if I'm missing out anyone else just off the top of my head. But I think Ricciardo, for me at the moment, is the best driver in the midfield. Sorry, Grosjean Army. But I think Ricciardo has proved that to everyone at the moment. That being said, Norris, Russell, Gasly, Kvyat, young drivers potentially could overtake him in the next few years if Renault doesn't develop and if Ricciardo doesn't have the opportunities to show his ability. So my thinking is, if Renault doesn't become a top team, which sadly is becoming more and more likely, it seems, he's got to hope that a space opens up at one of those top teams pretty soon. We're talking before 2021. And just a sneak peek again to my video I'm bringing out in the next few weeks, I think Ricciardo moving to Renault is a sensible move, mainly because it allows him to move to a Mercedes, to move to a Ferrari, if, say, Vettel or Hamilton retires. So, thinking towards the future, for Ricciardo, I think he's in the right position, because he can judge the development from Renault, see how much funds they're pumping in to 2021. He can also analyse their performances this season. Okay, they're definitely not doing great. Behind Toro Rosso at the moment in the Constructors is definitely not where the team was aiming to be or want to be, considering the progress they've made over the last few years. But I think Ricciardo, I think he will find his way into a top team because he's proven he deserves to be there. And definitely if Hamilton retires over the next few seasons, if Sebastian Vettel moves on, I think Ricciardo is still one of those top names at the top of people's lists. But he's got to try and really comfortably outperform Hülkenberg for the second half of this year and definitely next season as well. But yes, I can see Ricciardo back at the top and fighting for Grand Prix victories. Question number 2 is a juicy one. It's a real beefy one, this one. Comes from Neil Roberts. With a budget cap due to come in for 2021, does that provide Red Bull Racing with an advantage because they could spread the development costs over both Red Bull Racing and Scuderia Toro Rosso? Love this question. Don't love budget caps for this exact reason. The question was a little bit longer, but I had to cut it down because obviously you don't want to be here for half an hour listening to my thoughts on Formula 1, but the question also involved Mercedes. Should they bring in a young driver team? Should Ferrari bring in a real young driver team as well? But I didn't want to go too in-depth today. So, Red Bull Racing, they will have an advantage, per se, with a budget cap. Because, as you mentioned in the question, they will be able to spread the costs. And for me, this is why a budget cap I don't think will work as intended in Formula 1. I think actually this could potentially harm smaller teams. I know it sounds a bit stupid, but at the moment we're already seeing teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, putting millions of pounds into Formula 1, not for this year's car, but for cars down the line, building facilities that in the future they're not going to be able to build because it will be part of their budget costs. So already they're one step in front of the rest of the grid, and we're not even at 2021 yet. Also, as you mentioned, for teams like Red Bull, there are going to be these loopholes. Well, we think there's going to be these loopholes. And that's what's going to be really interesting, is how the FIA and Liberty Media together managed to shape these regulations to stop that happening. Because a budget cap should not allow teams to have twice the budget. That's just silly. So whether they'll be forced to sell the team, I think is unlikely. It could very well happen, and B teams could be outlawed. Potentially Liberty could try and, I don't want to say give compensation to Red Bull, but potentially they could really try and force them to split up. But then we'll see with teams like Haas F1, they buy a chassis from Dallara. Dallara, as we all know, are not a Formula 1 team. What's stopping Dallara pumping all this money into research and development? Haas, all they do is buy the chassis. So it's so hard to police all these different outlets with a budget cap, and that's why I'm nervous. So I understand the point of a budget cap, and I understand that fundamentally it'd be brilliant to have a budget cap that everyone pays the same amount. It's just so difficult to police, and I think, as Neil mentioned in the question, teams like Red Bull that have multiple teams, I think will take a bit of an advantage there. And customer teams as well, they don't have to spend money on producing an engine. So, yeah, it's a tricky one for me, a budget cap, and I just hope that they can make it work. Because, yeah, for sure, it's a sticking point, and it's going to be a big talking point over the next few years in Formula 1. Next question comes from Sam. How many years/seasons do you think it will take Mick Schumacher to reach Formula 1? Now, who's seen Formula 2 this season? Hands up. Look, it's not been the best season for Mick in Formula 2 this year, that's for sure. Did get his first win in Hungary, which is brilliant, but he's not the first rookie to do that this season. We've seen Antoine Hubert also do that. So, I think Schumacher, historically, what we have seen is he's always done better. In every championship he's raced in, he's done better in that second season. The first year, he's just steadily learnt the car, which I think actually if you see his progress in Formula 2 this year, he's got better and better as each race has gone on. But I think next year will be when he really makes that step up. I'm not seeing many other people in Formula 2 that I think will stay next season, really trying to contest him for the championship. I think you're going to see guys like Hubert, maybe Guanyan Zhou, and Schumacher fighting it out for the championship. But also in Formula 3, there's some real special talents down there this season. You've got the likes of Adam Armstrong, Robert Schwartzman, Yuri Vips, that I think, and I hope all of them get a chance in Formula 2, because I think all three of those guys are really good racers. And I'm interested to see whether they bring in Jamie Chadwick from the W Series and what kind of effect that's going to have. But don't want to talk about that too much. We try to stay as away from the politics as we can sometimes in Formula 1. But I think it'd be nice for Jamie to get a chance to show her ability in Formula 2. Moving back to Mick Schumacher, when is he going to become a Formula 1 driver? If he's going to become a Formula 1 driver. Personally, I think there's going to be so much pressure on his shoulders. I mean, look at the pressure Charles Leclerc has had, and he doesn't carry the surname. And I know we shouldn't look at the surname, but of course it's going to be a huge headline. And it's something that, I don't want to say is going to open doors, but I think some people definitely will look to exploit that for marketing reasons, which I completely understand. But also I think some people will be a little bit more cautious about it, and that's completely fair. So I want to judge Schumacher, and whenever I talk about Schumacher, on his racing ability. And so far, he doesn't deserve a Formula 1 seat from his performances in Formula 2. But I expect him to be better next season. There will be an opening for 2021 at Alfa Romeo. Whether that's Giovinazzi moving on, whether that's Raikkonen, because that's when Raikkonen's contract ends, whether he finally decides to retire, there's going to be seats at Alfa Romeo. And that, for me, with Schumacher being a Ferrari young driver, makes sense for him to move there. So I think 2021 realistically is going to be, I'd say, very highly likely to see Schumacher in Formula 1. Trans9 asks, any American drivers showing potential for making it into Formula 1? Who or if not, why not? Got a bit muddled up there. Really good question this, because Formula 1 is making a huge push into the States. Liberty Media being an American company. We've obviously got COTA, Circuit of the Americas, on the calendar. Trying to add Miami to the calendar. It's a huge market that Formula 1 has struggled to break into for quite some time now. And it's also a market that slowly, and I've noticed this from my own analytics, a lot more American fans are joining Formula 1, which is really nice to see. So, to the question, where are the American drivers? I think there are some Formula 1, there are some young drivers, American, slowly working their way towards Formula 1. You've got the likes of Juan Manuel Correa in Formula 2, who got a podium earlier on this season. He's driving for the Sauber Junior team. I don't think he's quite Formula 1 ability just yet, but as I just mentioned with Schumacher, maybe he's the kind of guy that will, with another season in Formula 2, get a chance and maybe find a way into Formula 1. You've got, I believe, Patricio O'Ward. I know he's Mexican, but I'm not sure if his FIA licence is American, to be honest with you. So I think that's probably the closest driver I personally see at the moment that could get it into Formula 1 or close to Formula 1. But I think the real reason is grassroots racing. And at the moment, the best routes to Formula 1, Formula 3, Formula 2 is through Europe. And Europe. So why that is, I don't know. And why the FIA isn't focusing on that, I'm not too sure. But currently, for American drivers, from my understanding, it's easier to go to a NASCAR, IndyCar, and then get spotted to Formula 1, rather than going through the traditional lower formulas. And that's the big issue at the moment. So for me, that's what the FIA need to focus on, rather than just trying to shove Formula 1 down the throats of American fans. But American fans, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments there, because obviously, being English, it's not really something that I get to see on a day-to-day basis. But our final question, our question to the audience: who is going to be the next Formula 1 race winner after Charles Leclerc? Very topical, and sorry, because so many of you last week, the most popular question was about Pierre Gasly. Will he be at Red Bull in 2020? Well, it's kind of still a relevant question, but he's already been dropped. Whether he'll come back, we don't know. But who's going to be race winners in the future? That's our question for today. I think Leclerc will be our next race winner. You're looking at tracks like Spa next time out, and Monza should really suit that Ferrari car. So I think if Ferrari can get their strategy right, which doesn't always happen, I think it's going to be a toss of the coin whether it's Leclerc or Vettel. And I think it will come down to who's the stronger at each particular circuit. And just imagine Leclerc getting his first victory at Monza. Oh, the scenes. Anyway, that's not the question for today. Next winner after Leclerc. Well, I think if you're a betting man, you'd probably go Alex Albon, to be honest with you, in that Red Bull seat. Is he going to win this season? If he does, he's going to stay. And he would have proved the doubters wrong and would have proved Red Bull right once again in making their switcheroo decision. But apart from Albon, it's really difficult to tell. It's really difficult to tell because it looks like Ocon's going to be at Mercedes next season. Maybe we could go with him, but even then, is Ocon going to be a little bit like Bottas was last season and not really have the chances to go for victories? Are some of the young guns like Russell, Norris going to be able to find their way into a big seat? We don't really know. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below, but I think the obvious answer, probably the cheat answer, would be for Alex Albon to be our next race winner after Charles Leclerc. And that's your lot for this week's weekly mailbox. Post your questions in the comments below for next week's. We've already had so many questions for next week's episode over on our community page. So if you are enjoying the content on this channel over the summer, feel free to subscribe and join in with the community over there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.